What's 1,000 times more dangerous than a pandemic? Well, we've been locked in our homes now for 2 months, and some people say we should get used to it. It's the new normal. What the hell does that mean exactly? Are we going to be quarantined every time there's a new outbreak? Will it ever be safe to run a small business? Will anyone even want to start one? Are concerts, sports, schools, human contact things of the past? Will we be forced to take vaccines and have chips implanted in us just to prove to the government that we did it? And all this for a virus that's killed fewer people than the yearly flu? Bill Gates, Tony Fauci, Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, head of the World Health Organization, are all warning us that we should get used to this way of life. This is how it'll be from now on. And the only cure, they say, every man, woman, and child vaccinated, more than once. And even with that, things will never be the same. They say we need a system to track people so we know they've taken their shots. Microchip us all? Maybe they'll start with an app to get us used to being spied on even more than we are now. Is Communist China's way of doing things the new normal for us?
I've been warning you that the real ID is coming. ID 2020 that's now been pushed back a year, maybe because I've been talking about it enough. It was a conspiracy theory to say that they were going to track your ID and that ID would be attached to your vaccine records. Oh, except now Bill Gates is saying, no, that's exactly what it does. We're going to need a tracking system to see whether or not you got the vaccine. But I'm thinking maybe if you give me a little time, we won't need a card. How about a microchip? I'm developing a microchip that can be injected into you that will know your vaccine record, all your medical records, so we decide whether you go to work.
The doctor confirmed that Chicago is already planning for a mass vaccination campaign, stating, quote, "We have already bought the syringes." Take a look.
And then finally, we'll be moving towards this mass vaccination campaign and continuing to follow. And I want you to know that CDPH is already deep in the planning stages around vaccination. We've already bought the syringes. We already know where it's going to happen. We're thinking about what that's going to be. It's all part of this plan.
House Rule 66 or House Resolution 6666 is for COVID-19 testing, Reaching and Contacting Everyone Act. The acronym is TRACE Act. Again, TRACE Act stands for Testing, Reaching and Contacting Everyone. And they have introduced this bill into the House, and they're going to roll this out from a testing standpoint in Ventura County, California, which happens to be where I'm at right now. And I couldn't believe that I heard this, but basically this act is to allow individuals to come into your house, and if you've got a cough or somebody in your family has a cough or you have a fever or anything that they determine that shows that you have COVID-19, regardless of whether you've been tested or not. They will also test people, but remember that testing already has been shown to be there to be a high rate of false positives. So the point is that the chance of them testing someone and them being positive is pretty doggone high, even if the person doesn't have COVID-19. But they're going to use that to pull you or your loved ones, especially your children, away under pretense of public safety. They're going to say that your child has to be removed from you because you have COVID-19, and so to protect your child, we're going to take that child. Or we're going to take your grandmother or your father or you and put you into quarantine.
Lee Dundas, human rights attorney. A few days ago, a leader of the World Health Organization did something that was absolutely unprecedented, and that I would submit as a problem not just for every American, but for everyone on this planet.
Transmission has been taken off the streets and pushed back into family units. Now we need to go and look in families to find those people who may be sick and remove them and isolate them in a safe and dignified manner.
We cannot afford to take such statements at face value. It may be that they have good intentions. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter when they say that they're going to remove your child from your home and from you. If the person doing it has good intentions, if they have bad intentions, or if there is a third category of a plan that had admittedly innocent intentions at its outset, but was subsequently hijacked and perverted to use for a very bad end in the final result.
It's not just our county. There are going to be thousands of people hired who will be these contact investigators throughout the state. And this is occurring in many, many other states as well, perhaps all of the states in our country. Some of the people we find are going to have trouble being isolated. For instance, if they live in a home where there's only one bathroom and there are 3 or 4 other people living there, and those people don't have COVID infection, we're not going to be able to keep the person in that home. Every person who we're isolating, for instance, needs to have their own bathroom. And so we'll be moving people like this into other kinds of housing that we have available.
Today we're announcing a commitment over this next decade, which we think of as a decade of vaccines having incredible impact. We're announcing that we'll spend over $10 billion on vaccines.
Hailed by the Gates-funded media.
For the record, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is a NewsHour underwriter.
And applauded by the pharmaceutical companies who stood to reap the benefits of that largesse. The record-setting commitment made waves in the international community, helping to underwrite a global vaccine action plan coordinated by the Gates-funded World Health Organization. But contrary to the Gates' own PR spin that this $10 billion pledge was an unalloyed good and would save 8 million lives, the truth is that this attempt to reorient the global health economy was part of a much bigger agenda. An agenda that would ultimately lead to greater profits for big pharma companies, greater control for the Gates Foundation over the field of global health, and greater power for Bill Gates to shape the course of the future for billions of people around the planet.
YouTube is deleting anyone's video that even discusses things that go against what the World Health Organization says, even when it's coming from respected doctors and scientists. There will be no discussion of any other ideas, period.
That is raising authoritative information. But then we also talk about removing information that is problematic. Of course, anything that is medically unsubstantiated, so people saying like, take vitamin C, take turmeric, like those are all will cure you. Those are the examples of things that would be a violation of our policy. Anything that would go against World Health Organization recommendations would be a violation of our policy. And so remove is another really important part of our policy.
And just who is the WHO? It's run by a Marxist terrorist. And now that the U.S. has halted funding, Bill Gates is the largest backer.
President Trump's decision to withhold WHO funding has upset one of the organization's most prominent supporters. Well, that's Microsoft founder Bill Gates, tweeting in part, halting funding for the WHO during a world health crisis is as dangerous as it sounds. The world needs them now more than ever. Well, the truth is the group actually needs Gates more than ever. With the U.S. taking a pause, he'll now be their largest active donor. That's right, 1 out of every $10 that the WHO gets is from the world's second wealthiest man. So should we be concerned about how much one man has maybe an outsized influence with an obviously corruptible entity such as the WHO? Joining me now is Cheryl Shumley, who is the Washington Times opinion editor, has been writing up a storm about all this. Cheryl, is all that money from Gates influencing how the WHO operates?
Definitely. And thanks for having me, Laura, to talk about this issue that's really fallen under the radar. Bill Gates wields tremendous influence at the World Health Organization, and I'm not the only one saying that. Back in 2017, Politico, which, as you know, is not even considered a far-right or conservative publication, Politico called him the World Health Organization doctor, that he had such influence that when he wanted a policy pushed, that the World Health Organization bureaucrats would oftentimes cave to his wishes. And it's not just funding that we need to be worried about in America. This is an unelected guy who really has no political affiliation with America. And yet he has been given a huge platform to push what I view as anti-American policies based on coronavirus figures. And this is something that he's not going to be held accountable to by voters.
Well, here's what the Gates Foundation has given to the World Health Organization and related organizations. Okay, 395 grants totaling $3.6 billion to the WHO. He pledged up to $100 million for the global response to COVID-19. He pledged $279 million to the Institute for Health Metrics and the Evaluation at the University of Washington. That's that IHME model that, of course, initially, wasn't all that accurate in predicting what was going on with this virus. It's more accurate now with all the new data. And he gave $13.5 million in grants to the CDC Foundation. People think the CDC is just a kind of an independent government agency, but they get money from the Gates Foundation. So it seems like Gates has his hand in pretty much everything pandemic-related, Cheryl.
Well, here's an interesting tie. So Bill Gates, for the longest of times, wanted to have the World Health Organization declare coronavirus a pandemic. And the World Health Organization did not want to do that. So a day after Bill Gates, through his foundation, announced an infusion of $50 million into something called the Therapeutic Accelerator to help fight coronavirus and find a vaccine, much of that money to go toward the World Health Organization. One day after that announcement, the World Health Organization Secretary General came out and declared coronavirus a pandemic.
Little baby Hitlers are popping up all over.
Now, I've directed Superintendent Brown to order all police districts to give special attention to these parties. And this is how it's going to be. We will shut you down, we will cite you, and if we need to, we will arrest you and we will take you to jail. Period. There should be nothing unambiguous about that. Don't make us treat you like a criminal. But if you act like a criminal and you violate the law and you refuse to do what is necessary to save lives in the city in the middle of a pandemic, we will take you to jail, period.
So they'll put you in jail for not wearing a mask, but let out murderers to keep them healthy.
They're literally releasing criminals from jail, some of which are sexual offenders, very
murderers.
Dangerous. Yes, very dangerous
They
people.
let out like 22 murderers out of jail the other day. Convicted murderers.
Unbelievable. But at the same time, they're threatening imprisonment of just regular people who are not criminals, who just want to work, who want to live their lives.
And in New Jersey, they're now using drones on the street to fly over to make sure that nobody's out there unnecessarily. I've gotten things, and you probably have too, about these downloaded apps that are automatically downloaded on your phone, these distancing apps that send you. I got screenshots from people that have sent them to me that says, you're 10 kilometers away from your house. Why aren't you why aren't you staying home? Why aren't you quarantining? Being in lockdown, actually being under house arrest. You call this number in the next 15 minutes to explain your whereabouts.
Peaceful protesters were met with police in riot gear. This time they were talked down by a Marine vet. What about next time?
I'd rather lose my job than lose my soul. Because what are you going to go tell your little boy or your little girl tonight? That you took a baton and you crushed somebody's skull that was a mom? Is that what a tough guy does? That's not what honor, courage, and commitment means in the Marine Corps. So the question is, do you say, we always have in the military, we have what's a lawful order? And you got to check your nutsack when you're given an order, and you got to say, is this a lawful order or is this a bullshit order? And when something's a bullshit order and it doesn't pass the sniff test, that's when you say sergeant, that's when you say colonel, that's when you say general, that's when you say governor. I'm not doing that.
The Raleigh police tweeted, "Protesting is a non-essential activity." What? Protesting is a basic human right, not essential? This just in, an epidemic of hypocrisy has broken out worldwide. This mental disorder makes people in power think that the rules don't apply to them.
Almost immediately after telling the rest of New York City to stay inside, for example, Mayor Bill de Blasio loaded up his SUV with government bodyguards and headed for the gym across town in Brooklyn. A government spokesman later explained the trip was necessary because de Blasio's gym, quote, has been a huge part of his and his family's life. Oh, okay, that makes sense. De Blasio likes his gym, so he kept going there despite telling you not to. Got it. Weeks later, de Blasio still couldn't stay out of Brooklyn for some reason. One day, he and his wife left their home in Manhattan, Gracie Mansion, and drove more than 10 miles to Prospect Park in Brooklyn for some sunshine and some fresh air. A stunned citizen happened to see the whole thing and videotaped it. Here's what happened.
Seriously, you guys have a park. You live in the middle of a park. You don't need to not essentially travel to Brooklyn.
Come on, guys, give it a break.
Come on, you won't even open roads for people of all backgrounds. I'm not going to give it a break. Like, this is selfish behavior. This is the epitome of non-essential travel.
Non-essential travel? What's that? When you make the rules, that's not even a category. Just ask Justin Trudeau, the preachy Prime Minister of Canada. On April 12th, Trudeau released a video commanding Canadians to stay in their homes for Easter. It's what Jesus would do, he declared.
So as we reflect on Jesus' message of love and compassion, let's think about our healthcare workers and essential service workers who are on the front lines every day. Let's put into practice what it truly means to love our neighbors as ourselves by making sacrifices to protect their health. Let's stay home for them.
That's the kind of quarantine Jesus endorses. Love means staying home. For you, not for them. Not long after recording the video you just saw, Trudeau left the capital and traveled all the way to Quebec to visit his family at their lake house, just like you'd want to do on Easter, if you were allowed to do that, but you're not allowed, so stop complaining. You might also want to get your hair cut. People do, and in Chicago last month, that was not allowed. You couldn't get your hair cut. But the city's mayor, Lori Lightfoot, had her hair done anyway. When she was caught doing this, Lightfoot didn't even blush.
I'm the public face of the city. I'm on national media, and I'm out in the public eye. And you know, I'm a person who I take my personal hygiene very seriously. As I said, I felt like I needed to have a haircut. I'm not able to do that myself, and so I got a haircut.
And then there's this piece of work.
Last month, the CNN anchor drove to a piece of property he owns in the Hamptons where apparently he's building a new weekend house. At the time, Cuomo was infected with the coronavirus and suffering from symptoms. He was supposed to be quarantined in total isolation in his basement full time. That's where he told his television audience he was. Night after night, Cuomo put on shows that revolved around his struggles with the illness and his virtuous, even selfless efforts to prevent others from getting infected with it.
I just said, don't you have the coronavirus? Shouldn't you be quarantined? And I think his next words were, what the hell do you know about this? What do you know about the rules? I said, you're not supposed to be out here. Nobody had gloves on. Nobody had masks on.
Oh, did you hear that detail? No gloves, no mask. An infected man circulating among an unsuspecting population. Cuomo was right there on television just last night, haranguing people for doing precisely what he did.
But there's also fatigue. I've had it. Season's changing. It's getting warm. Want to get back to it. Look at these fools. Fools. I know they want to be out there. Fools. It's not about you. What about the other people? And look, I'm not going to castigate you. That's not my job. I'm not your daddy.
It doesn't seem to occur to Chris Cuomo for a moment that he may be actually describing himself. It never occurs to any of these people. It's never one time occurred to Chris Cuomo's brother, the governor of New York. Andrew Cuomo just gave a pungent press briefing, as he so often does. Maybe you saw it. If not, watch this clip and tell us what you notice.
I think it's disrespectful of people not to wear masks. I mean, think about it. Do I think local government should be enforcing it? And should there be sanctions? Yes. Yes. Because it is a public health emergency. And I think there should be a penalty. Because you could literally kill someone. You could literally kill someone because you didn't want to wear a mask.
Hear that, Dumbo? You hard of hearing? Listen up. It's disrespectful. You could literally kill someone by not wearing a mask. Says the man not wearing a mask, who happens to be sitting next to other people who are not wearing masks.
And why did all these countries decide the virus was dangerous enough to lock down all their citizens and ruin the worldwide economy? This guy, Neal Ferguson, his computer models caused the entire world to panic and shut down. Turns out his computer models were wrong once again. And he just got caught meeting his girlfriend for sex. The rules didn't apply to him either.
Neal Ferguson, we've talked about him before on this show. He is the modeler, epidemiologist, scientist out of the Imperial College in London. He was the one that was initially responsible for the doomsday projection of 2.2 million dead in the U.S. From the virus, 500,000 dead in the U.K. I think right now we're at about 73,000 in the U.S. Not that that's a good number, but well below his projections. Now, his model was the one CNN, New York Times, Washington Post all basically said that his model was the one that jarred the U.S. and the U.K. into its lockdowns that we're still wrestling with today. So this guy, Neal Ferguson, starting with the headlines of a couple days ago, he was caught breaking the quarantine. He was accepting visits from a woman, and we'll just leave it at that. But he broke his own quarantine. He was calling for big time social distancing. In fact, on that day, he broke it with allowing this woman to visit him because he was positive for the coronavirus. But perhaps even the bigger story. He used coding for this modeling, and when it was found out that this thing was really over exaggerated, people were saying, scientists, people in the scientific community were saying, look, release the coding, open source this coding. We need to look at it. We need to see if we can replicate it. We need to run our tests on it, because this is
scientists have been demanding this, right? We talked about this. There's been an onslaught of scientists saying, this is not how we do science. You have got to share your code. This was not peer-reviewed. It should be open source so that we can all check it. This is affecting the entire world right now. And so did we finally get the code?
Yeah, he released it last week, and this is after a 6-week delay after he was called out on it. And I don't know what's been going on for the last 6 weeks. Let me think. I think something important having to do with this code. Oh yeah, the coronavirus. So he releases this thing, and it's Gateway Pundit basically ran a headline, said the Imperial model is now confirmed as a complete fraud.
We now know the numbers were wrong, the deaths were wrong, the bell curves were wrong, and the world followed his computer model into a breakdown of our entire economic system. The biggest threat to the planet, to freedom, is not the virus. It's the loss of freedom that will never be ours again. It's the new normal and an old plan.
I don't know what they have to say. It makes no difference anyway. Whatever it is, I'm against it. No matter what it is or who commenced it, I'm against it.
And now for some dumb shit.
Like, I shouldn't be eating cereal. Like, I should be in a restaurant eating sushi.
It's a beautiful thing. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed that. Hey listen, I'm going to make an important announcement here. It's important to me, maybe you'll find it important. I'm going to be spending the next year or so creating an album from scratch. It's going to be something completely different than what I've ever done before. And I'm going to videotape the whole process, probably put out 1 or 2 videos a month, from the concept to the playing, to everything I'm doing on my computer, to the vocals, to the lyrics. I'm just going to videotape the whole process. It'll take about a year, and it'll be ongoing. I think we're all ready to get back to work and get out of the house. Being a shut-in isn't all it's cracked up to be. I think we got this. Anyway, best thing you could do is share this video and help me out by becoming a follower of mine on Spotify. And don't forget to subscribe and all that kind of stuff. You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, see you soon. Love you guys. Take care of yourselves. Get out there and get some fresh air. Bye-bye.